Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm David Cherry. I'm a coach and advisor to early stage remote founders. And today I want to talk about a dopamine detox that I did over the past weekend, over the past 4 or so days, why I did it, how you can do it, and what the benefits were. So we all have energy every day for the work that we do. We have things that excite us. We have ideas that we want to pursue. Maybe it's a project like a book. Maybe you want to look for a different job. We have all these things, these impulses of projects we want to pursue. And that's energy, right? That's something that I have inside me that I want to see out in the world. It's something that's swirling around in there that I have the intent to translate into action, that I have the intent to translate into a habit. So all of these ideas, they just start as that little inkling of energy, that little boost, that little, oh man, I should do that. And that would be so cool. The problem starts to happen when we don't listen to that impulse and when we filter that energy in a way that we don't actually put them into the projects we want to. Now, sometimes that's negative self-talk, right? You have this idea, oh man, I should look for a new job. Oh, I should call that person up. And instead of doing it, we have a filter and it says, no, do that tomorrow. You're not supposed to do that. That's not going to work. Sometimes there's a filter of negative self-talk. And if that's something you're struggling with, I think there's some other things you can do. But today I want to talk about what happens when you have that impulse, but instead of taking it, instead of having this negative impulse, you numb your energy by doing something else. You pull up Twitter, you pull up Facebook, you pull up Instagram, and that energy that was buzzing around in there, instead of channeling it into writing your book, starting a habit, going for a run, calling a friend, any of those things that deep down you're feeling like you want to be doing, they get caught in these energy sinks, these places where instead of putting that energy that we have inside into the project, we put them into something where the energy can just dissipate. Now, Twitter is an easy example because when you're on Twitter, you can just keep swiping down and refreshing the feed. You can keep refreshing the feed. On TikTok, right, you can keep surfing forever. On Instagram, you can keep scrolling. And so these energy sinks, they're almost like a cul-de-sac. It's like rather than having the energy you have today flow into the project of your book or of the habit you want or of the hike or of calling your friend, instead we're choosing to put it into these devices, these things where we'll never get enough. And we get stuck there, right? So the energy goes from us into the screen, into the feed, and suddenly we're stuck there. It's an hour later and it's like, now I'm tired. Where did that energy go? So if we don't properly channel the impulse we have into the projects we want, it's really easy to let them just cycle and get stuck in these places that we don't really want them. And that's what people call a bad habit, right? I have this bad habit or I have this addiction. And so I did a dopamine detox to play with this a little bit, to see if I remove these areas that could be a place to channel my energy into. For me, that was Twitter. For me, that was, I have a sweet tooth for chocolate. So dark chocolate was a huge thing where go to the fridge, grab a dark chocolate. Some other things might be Netflix. They might be games on the iPad. These are spaces where I would go to get this dopamine hit that felt like the energy was being rewarded, but it wasn't actually going into something that I really truly cared about. It wasn't relating to the values that I had about how I want to spend my time. So I did this experiment, this dopamine detox, where I removed easy sources of dopamine, right? Like the difficult dopamine might be, I want to run, that's exciting. Oh no, it's tough. Okay, let me get my shoes on. I go for a difficult jog. And at the end, I feel that dopamine release. That's much more difficult than just pulling out the phone and getting the immediate hit, right? So this dopamine detox was about helping my energy be channeled naturally into new areas simply by cutting off certain pathways, right? So I have this natural pathway to take the energy I have and pour it into Twitter. I have this natural pathway to go to the fridge and get a snack. I have a natural pathway to turn on Netflix. And what I found for myself, and this is what I learned from my dopamine detox, which I did for about 4 or 5 days, is that when I cut off those channels, when I cut off Twitter, when I cut off the snack, when I cut off the show, I still have some energy. I still want to do something. And it was much easier to see how I would suddenly start doing these other things. I would start journaling, I would meditate, I would go to the gym more easily, right? Because I was bored. and because I wasn't able to get that quick dopamine fix. And so I would recommend you think about experimenting with, where are the things that I put my energy into that are kind of like a sink, a time suck? And what are the things that I'd like to put my energy into? And if I can cut off the easy dopamine, if I can cut off that easy pathway that I'm so used to doing, what happens? Do I convert my time spent there to something else? For me, that was the case. It happened very quickly. It happened almost immediately. And so I'd be curious to hear how this goes for you. Make a list. What are the things I value and want to spend my time on? What's quality time look like? Not just a fast dopamine hit. And what are the things in my life that are a fast dopamine hit? And for 3 days, cross out the dopamine stuff. Say, I'm not going to give my energy to that. And I'm going to see if I naturally rotate it into these things that I've deemed to be quality. I hope that helps. I hope that's a good experiment for you to try. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments below. I'll be back next week with a new video. You can always subscribe to get those notifications. I appreciate you being here. I'll be back again very soon. Later.